What's up, everybody? I'm Brandon Gordon. Oh, excuse me. I'm Brandon Gordon Gass of GapGames.com. Talk about it. This is my plan to save the country. I live in Illinois. Everything's expensive as shit. Taxes high as shit. People aren't making enough. Their plan to help people and families is to raise the minimum wage to $25 an hour. This, while it may sound good, is a temporary fix. Minimum wage, while pricing and affordability of things is part of the issue. Pricing and affordability start from resources. When there's a surplus, items and resources are cheaper. When we're operating at a deficit of resources, things become more expensive. We can look at food for an example. If minimum wage is $25, eggs are going to cost $10, $8 for a dozen. You know, if food is expensive food, where the dollar starts meaning jack shit, your country becomes a third world country. When it's like who's financing anyway? The dollars are made up, none of it matters. So raising minimum wage isn't necessarily the answer. And I barely make enough. I don't make enough technically. You know? So here's what we do. We gotta create more food. But Brandon, how the fuck are we gonna create more food? It's easier said than done. True. But first of all, as a black man, we understand slavery. Everybody don't want to work in the goddamn field. You know? But where the fuck are we gonna get all this farmland? I decided to take one of my earlier ideas and combine it. Now, I have a few ideas. I have two ideas that we're going to combine. One, to conserve energy, or not even conserve energy, but to create more energy. I believe we turn our deserts into solar farms. Our cities, we need more vertical grow areas. What I mean by vertical grow areas, a 20-story building that's made just for growing crops in urban environments. Controlled climate, controlled environment, we can control year-round growing. Now, we combine the two things. We combine solar farms with facilities made to grow crops in the desert. If we turn, let's see, like a UPS. The UPS I used to work at is one of the central hubs, and it's been maybe like half a mile. It's a big ass building. All I'm saying. Now, if you put solar panels on top of this building, we have the energy to create a controlled environment, a climate controlled environment with little to no energy cost. Our biggest thing would be is water. You know? But if we use solar energy to power generators and, you know, artificial lights and, again, climate control, we can turn over crops year round at a faster pace, even if the crop is a little bit smaller. Baby potatoes versus giant potatoes. You know? So therefore, we could turn our vast desert not only into energy, you know, creators, but also into fertile land. It's not fertile land in the normal sense of revegetating the soil, but, you know, a grow box is a grow box, no matter how big the grow box or small the grow box is. Same concept as creating a home garden, just on a massive scale. All the hydroponics and stuff that indoor marijuana growers use to benefit an indoor farm. Move a few cows, give them some feed. You know, we can raise cattle there. We can raise, you know, chickens. We can raise all this shit indoors in the desert because it's fast. You know, say we can't make sustainable living in the desert is almost a thing of the past. You can't tell me it's impossible when everybody's favorite desert facility, Area 51, is still up and running. Whether there's aliens there or not, the military base in the government, in the desert, that's always up and running. Keep a high military presence there to keep shit out, or keep shit in. All depends on who you ask. So to say giant desert-based facilities won't work, it's false. They'll be self-sustaining for the most part, outside of, like I said, an outside water source. And, you know, to build 4 walls, and even if you go, you know, cheap, create wooden grow boxes that just got a water setup to consistently keep the soil moist and stuff like that for ideal growing conditions. You know, if we can't revegetate the desert in the traditional sense of terraforming the land, then we do what we do best. We build something that can sustain. But the abundance of sun in the desert, which is why it's hot as fuck, can't grow shit. We can create a solar farm that could maintain the power needed to grow all year round. To maintain the equipment to keep things at an ideal temperature to grow. Because that's the first thing we need. We need a surplus of food. Raising the minimum wage won't help because then everything else raises. You know, regular $20,000 house is going to turn into $50,000. If not 60, because they're not just going to double the price. They're going to take a little bit more. Price of food isn't going to go up because if we have a deficit of resources, then the price of food is still going to go up because we have a deficit of resources. We create more resources. That's the first thing we need to do. The second thing is finding out a cheap, if not growable, renewable resource to build houses. What to build in general. You understand? So we have to create resources. Most important resource is food. The second is living space. Once we figure out living space and food, then we get an actual relief. Don't have to worry about where you're going to live. You don't have to worry about food. Two things most Americans worry about. Again, those facilities alongside giant multi-story facilities used to grow fruits and vegetables are necessary. Like a lot of a lot of buildings, Chicago downtown area, like especially the storefront, Magnificent Mile is magnificent. They have become vacant. What do we do with these 30-story buildings, 40-story buildings? Turn it into a fucking produce creator. Produce. I don't know what the fuck it's called, shit. You turn it into a grow room. That's what you do with it. One building for fruit, one building for vegetables. Another building to raise and slaughter cattle. You take them all the way to the top, where they can see outside and see the sun. Then we gas them. No? Like anybody that made it to the top never came back. Gotta let a few come back. Gotta have one group that comes back. Die at both ends. So they can let the others know. This room in the sky is so beautiful. Nobody comes back from the room in the sky, man. Live. Best you do. Saw the sun. I saw the stars. Eventually, after generations, just growing up in captivity, it's normal. See white for the first time, sun, last thing they see. Starry sky, last thing they see before gas. Burgers for everybody. Local slaughterhouse. Save money on shipping. One building for cows, one building for chickens. Well, 2 buildings for chickens, 2 buildings for cows. 1 building for cows to be slaughtered. The other one use cows as milk. 1 for chickens to be slaughtered. The other for chickens to be used for eggs produced. 20 stories. Chickens laying eggs. Ten stories. Chickens fucking. Or how the eggs were made. Then 10 stories. I had it in my head. But then you got, you create a few floors for them to move around, exercise. Then again, I don't need my cow to run away. The social interaction. You know what I mean? Then 10 stories for slaughter. The processing. And execution. The skinning. Turning them into burgers. Steak. That's how. Because you gotta remember, things expensive. It gets expensive because of resources. So you gotta manage resources. If everybody bite into an apple, they throw the apple on the floor. It's a waste of resources. That's why, food always. The price of food tells you the state of the economy. Price of food is the state of the economy. Even if if they raise minimum wage and keep food down enough, then but personally, they definitely have a correlation. How to make that correlation happen? Politics. For me personally, if we have a surplus or an abundance, we want people to be happy. We want people to live a little freer. I believe that we could raise minimum wage, but food increase. The best thing we could do to help, because we want to make sure we're not wasteful. Spend on goods for taxes, right? We want that. We want you to spend on goods so we can get the taxes. But we don't want you to waste food. Right, biting that apple, throwing it away. This apple don't taste like an orange. This steak don't taste like chicken. This chicken don't taste like a banana. That's what happens when you have cheap food. It's the way. Get what I'm saying? Certain things you don't waste. Don't waste food. Better eat that goddamn food. And some people don't get it because education took a hit. That's why we got people raising their kids. I never tell my child to eat something they don't want to eat. I'll make them something else. You gotta remember, we came from parents. Like, even though us ourselves went through a recession or two, they came from the Great Depression. Nigga, they want food to be wasted. I get that you don't like certain foods, that's fine. But to say, I do my best to buy foods that we do eat. Say, you don't want to eat this just because you don't want to eat it, not that you don't like it. You're just like, fuck that, I don't want to eat that shit. You're a kid, shut the fuck up. You don't gotta eat that. But the meal's not changing. If you're hungry, you're gonna eat. You'll find something on that plate to eat. I'll even give you a second serving of this. And eat this. Like, personally, I don't like broccoli. Here, you can have 2 servings of broccoli. Give me your servings of mashed potatoes. Quality, equity, versus equality. Like, cool. That's when you get into returning to prison at home. I'll trade you your cornbread for your corn. I'll trade you your cornbread for my corn. Lucky you, I don't like corn. Deal. Get what I'm saying? But to be like, you just gonna waste all this shit. Ain't no food to waste. Easy to be like, fuck that when you're getting all this link card because you have all these kids and no man, or it's set up for you to think you have. But you gotta remember, it's a reason we were taught shit, like, certain shit. Like, shut the fuck up when adults are talking. Go put some clothes on when there's company. Eat what's on your plate. Like,
calling all units. Think we got
a
visual on a 2440.
I learned to shut the fuck up and be grateful. For example, me and my daughter mother, we not the greatest friends. We don't always get along, and she's not the woman of my house. And sometimes I'm like, fuck that bitch. But then I think, God made me a plate. Just because she's not my cup of tea, don't mean I don't be grateful for the daughter mother that I have. You get what I'm saying? Because it could be worse. She could be on drugs. She could abuse the kid. She could not take care of my kid. This is my plate. Shut up and eat. We don't have to be together. We don't have to see eye to eye. But we got a kid together. We got to raise the kids together. Technically, she is my wife under God. We have a kid together. That's till death do us part. Respect that. This is on my plate. You shut up. You be grateful for the meal. It's not like the devil prepared a plate of shit. Like, eat that. Could be worse.
Got ourselves a racer out here.
So, shut the fuck up. Swallow that pill. It's a tough pill to swallow, right? Like, because she's not always wrong, even though she's not always right. Respect her as the mother of my child, because I could have been, it could have been worse. You know? Sometimes you'd be like, I don't like this bitch. Or I don't like this guy. Like, how many people offering you some booty? You know? Might not look the best or have the best body. But God sent you somebody that like you enough to want to give you some booty. You ain't got to go pay for it. You ain't got to, the devil ain't charging you for pussy. Devil ain't charging you for dick. Shut the fuck up and eat the meal. Don't count your blessings, but you be blessed. Somebody could be charging you for dick. Could be charging you for pussy. Send you somebody that like you enough to be like, you know what? I like you enough to fuck you. Now what's the catch? Right now, no catch. You know, the devil be, money make me come. Oh, this bitch gonna have to buy me a game or something. That's the devil. That's pussy and dick. That's bad for you. You know? Be blessed. Be glad to be blessed. So, it's the same thing with society. You know, like I said, some people don't understand the concept of be blessed, be grateful that we got food on our fucking table. There's motherfuckers out here that ain't got no job, living off link. Talking about my child ain't got to eat nothing they don't want to eat. They don't even understand they're blessed to even put food on their table. Because they feel that it's the government's job to put food on their table. Like you, my friend, technically are a grasshopper. We're not talking about people that get help. We talking about people that don't do shit. The grasshoppers. You lucky the ants let you sit at the table. Because you don't have to eat. You ain't did nothing to eat. That's why we gotta You know, that's why the price of food goes up. And they give you more money. And the price of food, when, you know, the economy comes to a standstill and you still have enough food to go around, the food prices shouldn't change. And they give you more money and and the food prices go up, they want you to spend on the economy, not necessarily the food. You know, fast food becomes cheaper versus going to the store. They want you to spend on the business, so everybody gets taxed more. So we got more to put back into the country. When food prices don't go up and they give you more money, it's because we have enough food to go around. Like when they give you more money and homes go up, we don't have enough homes to go around. That's why the homes are at they're coming at an all-time high. Not enough places, overpopulation. Another topic. You know, I read somewhere that somebody was talking about no tax rate, no property taxes for people over 65 that own their home. And I don't agree with that, personally. I get how some people could agree with that, but I think that we should do a subsidized property tax for people living off of Social Security. Their expenses versus how much they get for Social Security, so that they can still have the security of owning their home and property taxes. But they still contribute back to society. Because we want a society where everybody still do their fair share, even if that fair share isn't much. That's why I'm not for an extra, like, billionaire tax. Everybody pays 10%. 10% of $1 versus 10% of $10 is two different. One person pays 10 cents, the other person pays the whole dollar. You know? So they're still paying more technically, but you know, they're still paying the same amount. We're all paying. That's how you lose the people that actually got the money to give back. Charging the people more, that's not right. But then to say that we should tax, because that's why billionaires that don't get it, like, we should tax poor people more. Why should I pay $1 and they only pay 10 cents? They don't have $1 to give. You know, 10% is 10%. You can choose to make less if you want to just give 10 cents. Hell nah. I like my yacht. Okay then, shut the fuck up. You know, shut the fuck up. Pay that $1. Go sit on your yacht and cry about it. Somebody paying 10 cents, sitting at their dining room table crying because they looking at their bills and they looking at the refrigerator. Shut the fuck up and be grateful. You crying on the yacht. They're crying looking at bills. Hungry. You know? But you understand now when it's like, why I gotta pay $1 and they only gotta pay 10%. They only 10 cents. Get what I'm saying? Everybody could technically fucking complain. Everybody could sit here and fucking complain. So, shut the fuck up. We charge billionaires more, they gonna leave. They like, shit. They charge me the same 10%. Now you wanna charge me 20, they charge me 10. They gonna leave. And that billionaire money gonna go back somewhere else. At least if they buy a yacht somewhere else, they buy a foreign car, we still tax them on shipping. You know, we still get some of that money. They buy a yacht in a different country because it's cheaper. We still got to tax them on shipping that yacht in. They want to save money. They buy that yacht locally. Saves them on that shipping. Shipping fees. You think shipping fees is a motherfucker when you shop on Amazon and TikTok shop. Imagine trying to ship in a yacht. Like, I ain't never think about it that way. Because you're looking at haves and have-nots. You're looking at what a person has and what you don't have. You know what you both have? Shipping fees. They pay the same amount on delivery fees that you pay for delivery fees using DoorDash. They pay the same amount of fucking money. That don't change. They gotta pay shipping fees and delivery fees for the yacht. And Lambo, you know how much that Lambo costs to get delivered? It costs more than a small house. Should have bought somebody's house and made them pay for my delivery from the Lambo. Get what I'm saying? Just because they got more tools, you know, it don't mean that they don't got the same fucking problem. It's not like they didn't have to pay a shipping fee unless they went to the dealership and bought it and drove it off the lot. Like, honey, I just ordered me a McLaren offline, off the net. Online. How you order a car you haven't drove there? The McLaren. You can't test drive a fucking McLaren. Car's gonna get here with 2 miles. The 2 miles they made sure that it don't break down driving. Make sure everything works. driving no goddamn McLaren. Appreciate the value of every mile you put on it. We want all our Lamborghini money. We want all that McLaren money. Plus shipping and delivery. Because shipping is getting it into the country. Delivery is bringing it to your house. So 10% is 10%. Everybody pays 10%. Your 10% don't look like their 10%. $10% on $1 million is $10,000. 10% on $10,000 is $1,000. 10% on 1,000 is 100. 10% on 100 is 10. 10% on 10 is $1. 10% on $1 is 10 cents. But guess what? That 10% ain't never fucking changed. It might be 100,000 and then 10,000. But you get my point. That 10 cent ain't never fucking changed. They tax the rich more, they gonna tax the poor more. That's why they like distribution of and that's just really the truth of it. Because they gonna complain. It's easy when you're not part of that group to think the motherfucking group not gonna complain, but the group gonna complain. Why do the nerds get to occupy the library with their bullshit ass club? Why do the jocks get to occupy the gym with their bullshit ass club? Why do the emos get to occupy the bleachers? They need sunlight, like the gods. You gotta share that with the gods. That's all it comes down to. Social groups in high school. High school is to learn what social group you are in. You don't necessarily learn anything different except to accept your social group. And or how to cross social groups or bring social groups together. How to change your social group. If you never learn how to change a social group, then getting over in tax bracket is a little harder. You know? And some social groups, you know, you just right. What's your social group called? Some people only worry about the popular. That makes them pop. Some people are athletes. You know, they hang with the athletic group, gym rats, as adults. Some people are social butterflies. You know, so the influencer group. They make up majority of the influencer group. If they could learn how to combine with the pop. You know? Your geeks and your nerds. They are more so your intellectual group, depending on if they're a geek or nerd. Because there's a fine line between intellectual, you know, and pop culture group. They don't like to admit it. Nerds to fit into the pop culture group, the pop group. As to where geeks are more intellectual. Nerd, I don't know, it's tough. Like, a geek is somebody, okay, I'll switch that around. Geeks are more pop culture, nerds are more intellectual. Your geek excited about something that's popular right now, or pseudo-popular, but you're still in that group. You know, like, orange is in. You know, like, you like orange? Red is where it's at. Just a darker orange. So that's your geek. Dragon Ball Z is the shit. You're into Dragon Ball Z. That's so last year. Jujutsu Kaisen is it now. Jujutsu Kaisen's been kiss Demon Hunter's ass. K-pop Demon Hunter's ass. That's popular. That's pop group. Just knowing your shit on a certain genre of popular. What's the popular clothes? What's the popular makeup? What's the popular hotspot? You know, stuff like that. It's still just, it's geek shit. No matter how you want to put it, it's geek shit. So you gotta understand your social group. Personally, I was able to bounce through social groups. Created my own little social network of friends. I never necessarily belonged to one. You know what I mean? I'm the other guy. Whatever your group got, you know, I'll let you have your social standing, but we're the other guy. What you mean? Well, look at it in sports. If that's your starters, I'll be the other team. I'll be on the other team. We're the other guys. If that's your starters, we about to bust y'all last. Just because you need somebody else. Not to say that you're right or we're right, because we're the same side. We're the same coin. If you're Democrat, I'll be Republican. If you're Republican, I'll be Democrat. If you're Republican and you're Democrat, I'll be the Green Party. I'm the other guys, the ones that keep you up at night. The only thing I refuse to do is be a bully and go to violence. I try to stay peaceful. It's not about, imposing my will on people. None of that shit. If I can avoid it, I will. Difference, between me and the bench warmers, though, is that I'm actually gonna give you a run for your money. I'll be like, he is you. You don't get that. Like, he is you. You think you hot shit, this and that. He is you on that side. You're the main character of your story. That's main character energy up there. Goku versus Naruto. They're the same character. They both carry main character energy. No matter who you think stronger or whatever, they both are protected by plot armor. Just like superhero team up. Sorry, whoever you think is better is your personal opinion. But they're both protected by plot armor. So this round goes to them, this round goes to them. And then the third round, they gotta team up. Because they're fighting the same cause.
I bet that car isn't street legal.
That's just how it goes. They're the same sides of two sides of the same coin. They're the good guys, plot armor. Neither one can look weaker than the other. Like, yeah, Superman, you have super strength, super speed, and super abilities. But I'm super rich, bitch. Yeah, I see your point, Batman. Let me borrow $10,000. Like, Batman, Bruce Wayne also explaining this to my dad. You know how he keeps Superman in check? It's more than just the kryptonite ring, or that he keeps kryptonite at home. He holds Superman parents hostage. Let's look at Justice League. He became the guy that holds Martha Kent hostage. Like, what you mean? He bought the Kent farm. Like, don't worry, I bought the farm. He didn't say, here's the deed to your farm. The mother never have to worry about anything again. She's protected by Bruce Wayne. I own your mom's home now, bitch. I own the farm. Let that bitch not have my money. She gonna be super homeless. So now Superman kinda gotta play nice because that's his mom's landlord. Great equalizer. But that's a different story for a different time. You know? Hey, Superman, guess what? In the cartoon, guess what? What? I got a date with Lois Lane, and I'm rich, bitch. She gonna drop them draws. Cause I'm not a bad guy like Lex. Alright, Batman! He always do some shit like that to Superman. Off the campfire, fucking this bitch, all types of shit. You know, that's why when it came down to it, the fact that Dick Grayson, the first Robin, like, Superman became his mentor. That's supposedly where he got the name Nightwing from. It was a Kryptonian legend. You know, it came from Kryptonian legend because Superman became Dick Grayson's mentor. Hey, Bruce, your kid likes me better. Uncle Superman is the shit. Daddy Batman's the prick. God damn you, Superman. And then Nightwing went solo. Or, in the eyes of Batman, he went rogue. He developed a mind for his own. You know what I mean? But there's still two sides to the same coin. They're both putting a young kid out there to go fight crime for him. Ah, man, who is that, Mr. Freeze? I don't want to do it. Hey, kid. Go fight Mr. Freeze for me. Who the fuck is that? Lex Luthor again? Tired of this motherfucker. Hey, kid. Go fight Lex for me. Two sides of the same coin. But once you understand, like I was saying, anyway, I got off track. How to maneuver within multiple social groups, then it's not too hard for you to jump in and out of tax brackets. Because a lot of social groups these days are based off of tax brackets. You know, social groups are built around tax brackets. But back to this topic, how to save the country. Everything's at an all-time high. You know? First things first, we have to make sure we have an abundance of food. How do we do that? We create growth towers. We create solar farms that are attached to indoor farms. We create indoor farms, basically. When I say growth towers, we got 40-story buildings here in Chicago. Some becoming more and more abandoned because people can't afford the taxes on the properties. They can't afford to live there. Taxes are high as fuck here. That's why a lot of companies left. That's why a lot of rich people move out. That's why the beards are talking about leaving. They're like it's official, but it's not official. Because taxes are too fucking high. You know? So those buildings should be bought up by the government and created to grow crops. We can have a skyscraper used just to grow vegetables, a skyscraper used just to grow fruit, indoor grown, indoor farm. You can even have a tall ass building just for cattle, to grow cows, to raise cows for slaughter for food, raise chickens for slaughter for food, and eggs and milk. One building for cows that's going to be milk, another for chickens that's going to lay eggs and hatch it, and not to lay and hatch eggs, because you need more chickens to hatch eggs. Another one to raise them just for slaughter. Same thing with the cows. One for cows to fuck and have kids and for milk. Another one for slaughter. We raise them to be nice and fat. We put TVs in front of them, let them watch TVs all day and feed them so they can get nice and fat like your ex-girlfriend. And death. Local burgers. You know what I mean? Grow fruits. One, you got 40 stories of fruits and vegetables. First floor, grapes. Second floor, kiwis. Third floor, whatever. Especially if they grow on the vine, it's a lot easier. You know? And then we got the bigger operation, which would be indoor grow farms that have solar panels attached to their roof in the desert. So therefore, they power their... I just did that. This is my last one for this. You know, with solar panels attached to the roof, all we got to do is worry about the water needed to keep everything moist. But we create human conditions. We create controlled conditions inside the building that's ideal, not just for good growing, but for rapid growth. Because when we could grow all year round, what do it matter? I'm not gonna say what do it matter, but you know, some crops freeze during the winter. But when you could grow all fucking summer, all winter, all summer, all year, now we get our surplus of food. Second, we got to figure out materials, building materials. I had an idea that sounds crazy that I came up with before. It sounds crazy, but I think it's plausible and feasible. For building materials. We need more building materials. We could probably build some crazy shit if we had building materials. But it was a 2-for-1 type of idea. So, trash, how to dispose of trash and keep our planet clean was an idea, right? It's something we got to think about. I got two ideas. One, Operation Sun Trash. We send all the trash to the sun. It's our biggest incinerator in the galaxy. We'll find out if we got aliens in the neighborhood, if it starts smelling bad, and aliens like, what? You motherfuckers you're making the neighborhood smell bad. We'll find out if aliens in the solar system then. But it'll create, once we start deciding to do that, and we have a steady line of cheap ships, we'll create better fuel for rockets and or something to break orbit. Therefore, creating the ingenuity needed to further our space exploration. You know, Operation Sun Trash. Right into the sun, we get the planet we get garbage off the planet like Futurama, how they had that, they decided to send a ball of garbage into space. We send it right to the sun to begin with. I'm all for that plan. Sounds stupid because we like resources to actually send a steady line of disposable shit because they're not coming back to the sun without losing material. That's why it sounds stupid. My second was, well, since we can't send stuff to the sun as often that we would like, volcanoes. Every country should have a pet volcano. We gotta learn how to burp a volcano first. Because volcanoes erupt when there's an accumulation of gases under the Earth's crust that force the magma to the surface. If we learn how to burp a volcano to get rid of those gases and control magma flow, we could put trash into volcanoes, creating the fuel for the magma, and then we control eruption so that we create new landmass, which in turn can be used to build. Fracking. Fracking might be our solution to volcanoes, which is the removing of gases from gas pockets under the crust. Anytime a volcano looks like it's about to swell up, it's like a pimple. You ever pop a pimple? We create a gas valve at one of the points of pressure, relieving that gas pocket so that it doesn't erupt. Now, if we could create a steady flow of magma that's non-lethal or non-life-threatening, we could create new landmass, given all the resources and tools we already have. Like I said, it sounds stupid, but it's plausible. Fracking is the answer. Fracking is the removal of gas from under the Earth's crust. The problem with fracking is that sometimes it creates sinkholes and stuff, making the land unstable. But the gas chambers anyway, they're already unstable. My Beauty and the Beast. You understand? I hope y'all understand what I'm saying here. So, and I just ran, that's the last of that playlist. Just ran through that whole playlist. I ran through all my S tier playlists because gas pressure builds up, it pushes the magma, so and it builds up to a point where it makes the magma explode out of the volcano. If we relieve that gas pressure at increments, right before it's at its critical, we don't have to worry about the explosion of the volcano. You know? You're fucking and you gotta pull out. You're like, oh, wait. Too much build up. I'm gonna explode. You just pull out the gas. Let it subside. Okay. Get what I'm saying? Not that we don't want it to explode, but we want to control the explosion. We don't necessarily want it to explode, but we do want it to run over. So we gotta make sure the gas do build up so that the volcano pre-comes. We want a steady line of pre-cum versus a full-blown ejaculation. You know? So that it could build new. The mountain that the volcano is on gets bigger. Why? Because of all the magma that has run out and created the new land mass. This is how land masses are formed. So to say that doesn't create new land mass is fucking false. This is how land masses are formed. Underwater volcanoes that eventually they erupt, they dry over, or they erupt, and then it cools until it finally breaches the surface. It gets tall enough to breach the surface of the water. Then it erupts and it cools, forming an island. And left unchecked, it'll form a continent. This is why most continents have a super volcano around the world. That's why they like it's a chain of super volcanoes. Because this is how landmass is created. Nothing I'm telling you is false. The only thing that's crazy about everything I'm telling you is like, man, we can't get new building materials like that. Like, yeah, I believe we can. We could create rockets out of trash that we're sending into space to be like disposable rockets. I just thought of that. We could recycle materials, trash materials, to create the rockets to send to space. Right? The containers of what holds the trash and the rockets created could be used. It could be recycled. Create a steady line of trash. One by one. like ants on its way to the sun. The more we send, the more we become better at making it more efficient instead of just sending people to space. And the better efficiency creates more tangible ways to use that technology practically for people. One of my favorite laps one time. Like I said, it's my plan for the country. It's, man, this stuff don't just help the country. If you want me to go back to help saving the country, is the first thing to save the country is to create more food. Because no matter how much, if they increase minimum wage, food will increase. Now we looking like a third world country where the money don't mean nothing. Like, how much you got? I got 1,000,000 yen. How much is 1,000,000 yen? How much is 1,000,000 yen in US dollars?
Based on the current exchange rate as of June 12, 2026, 1 million Japanese yen, JPY, is equal to approximately $6,241.22 US dollars USD. The exchange rate is approximately 0.00624 1 USD per JPY.
That's not
based
bad.
on the current...
$6,000 and change. 6 1/4 is 1 million. It's 1 million yen. 1,000,000 yen sound like a lot. Like $6,000. I get that back in tax money. Some people get that back in tax money. You know? So when $6,000 start looking like 600, you'll understand what I mean by raising the minimum wage. It don't necessarily mean shit. You know what I mean? So, raising the minimum wage ain't the answer when there's not enough buildings. There's not enough materials to make buildings. You know? That's why the housing market becomes stale sometimes. There's not enough buildings to go around. Then there's not enough space and or materials to make more buildings. You know, there's not enough food. Food prices can't go down. When there's a surplus, food might go down a little bit, but that's when there's a surplus. We got to create the surplus of food for food prices to go down. If we don't create the surplus of food, then how the fuck will food prices go down? With drought and all this other shit, how do we combat that, which is nature? We already trying to harness nature. Solar energy, hydro energy, wind energy. We use all of this to power our indoor barns, which are created in the desert because there's an abundance of sun. It could power itself. Like I said, the only thing we got to worry about is just the water. You know, we take that same brown ass water from Flint, Michigan, we redirect it to the crops. Then we get them clean pipes and clean water. We can take all that snow Every year it snows and it snows heavy places. We could pack that up in ice boxes, put that shit in cooling towers, and let it melt. And we got natural water for these places. Alaska, you know, how long does it snow? It always snows. Pack that shit up. Send some of that shit in water towers, enough to fill a fucking water tower. And you ship that shit over here to the desert. It's gonna melt, turn into fresh water. Needed to grow crops. And because it's a climate control thing, we just gotta make sure we find the ideal percentage so that we don't just necessarily go through the resource. Like, put more ice in there. Let's say Alaska ran out of ice. Harness nature. Work with nature. Become one with nature. One thing that they can't say they don't have is fresh fucking water in Alaska. All you gotta do is go melt you something. Go melt you some ice. You gotta go outside, grab some snow, melt it, purify it. You got drinking water, fresh drinking water. Every year. Like, well, you know, I'll save that snow. Freeze, keep it on ice, keep it frozen. We ain't necessarily gotta purify it because it's going into the crop. You know? If we want, we can. And we get us a nice mist going over the soil to keep the soil moist. Ideal moisture. A nice mist going over this plant. Keep it ideally, you know, moist and grow in its ideal conditions because we control the climate. We got free energy in water. We got free energy in the sun. We got we got water that's, you know, almost an unlimited source of water. And ice and snow. Bringing them together. So we could grow in the desert, technically. Start creating their water towers, right? Water towers with removable tops. The top works as a refrigerator, you know, where it comes in with its own built-in cooling. We make it powered by electric batteries that could be changed out and swapped out from our solar farm. Every time we just remove the top, go ship the top to go collect more water and ice for us to, more ice and snow for us to slowly dissipate and create the water. Sounds stupid, but it's so plausible. The building's powered by solar energy. It's in the fucking desert. Once it gets to the location, you can just hook it up to the grid to keep it charged. Keep the refrigerator charged. The battery is just used the battery is used to keep the refrigeration unit, which is the top of the water silo, together. Keep it cold in transport. So you don't necessarily have to have a refrigerated truck when you could just, pack it, and the thing itself is the refrigeration unit. Think of like the water machines, you put the gallon of water, the big thing of water, you use the button. The big thing of water is snow.
2440 right in front of you.
You press the button, it heats the snow to create the water. But the big gallon on top of it has its own refrigeration unit attached. Because the refrigeration unit is in the base. We want to make the top the refrigeration unit for transport to keep the snow melted. Because when we can control how the snow melts and when the snow melts, how much snow melts, then we can control the water consumption. If we could keep it frozen until we need to use it. Because we might not need to use the whole thing. Again, ideally, when you're just using it for mist to keep the thing moist enough. We're not trying to oversaturate it with moisture. Right, what's the ideal moisture that's needed? It's all contained, created, Probably even grow a tree indoors. They only gonna grow so high, but you don't necessarily need it to grow any higher. You need it to be able to bear fruit. But that's why I'm like vine fruits and stuff like that, and vine vegetables. But vegetables grow in the soil anyway. That's different. But fruit on a vine is better to grow indoors. Anything on a vine is better. But that's on top of our traditional farming. But traditional farming becomes victims to circumstances. Animals, water and like rain accumulation, how much it rains that year. Did we have an early winter? Did we have a late spring? Like these things affect the normal farms, which affects our domestic product. But if we could control those things, we can farm all year. At least it could compensate for whatever is lost. As long as we don't lose product, and we don't lose crops, then we're winning. We have a sustainable food source because we don't have any loss for the year. Once we stop having loss, eventually we'll have gain. And that is how once we understand how to control our food, we can lower our food prices. Lower food prices means people feel more confident going grocery shopping. They shop locally. They shop a little bit more for food. You just gotta worry about wasteful spending. Biting the apple and throwing it behind our head because it don't taste like an orange. Next thing again is the roof over our head. How do we create product to build? We can only dig up so much sticks and stones, before a mountain disappears. You could mine the mountain, you could break down the mountain, but eventually that mountain will disappear. And mountains, unless we have a pet volcano, just don't grow. Which is why every country needs a pet volcano. So worldwide, resources are always being created. Think concrete is. It's powdered stones that you add water to that become solid again. Basically dehydrated mountains. Add some water to that shit. It'll stick together. Wood, sticks and stones. We couldn't use sticks anymore, not because it wasn't necessarily sturdy, but deforestation and things like that. We chop down our trees. We need that because they create the stuff we need to breathe. So we have to start breaking down mountains. That's why we see the movies with the people. You ever wonder, those movies, people in jail and they busting up rocks? Like, what the fuck they doing with all them rocks? What they doing? They looking for diamonds or something? I don't think they digging deep enough to find diamonds. They're not looking for gold. Creating fucking cement. So people build houses and bricks. Cement blocks. Build the fucking house. Which we could even build those solar farms out of clay blocks. You take some sand, add some water, you heat it to a certain temperature, and you got clay blocks. You got blocks. And then eventually somewhere we're going to be like, we're running out of desert. Like, we're running out of desert. Nigga, I ain't never think we out here today. We running out of sand. But that's because we haven't figured out how to use it as a resource yet. Right now, we could turn all our homes into fucking clay block homes. We start mining the desert. Like, nigga, I ain't never thought we'd run out of sand. A little bit of water and a little bit of heat. Actually, you could let them sun dry. But if you want to do it fast enough, you create a facility that's solar powered, that got heat lamps, in the desert, and we move us some water, some glaciers, some snow from Alaska, and we use that as our water. We use that bad water from Flint, Michigan. Then we let them get the glacier water and purify it. While we fix up their pipes. We do one pipe going from Michigan all the way to the desert. Whichever one. Like shit, the desert gonna have cleaner water than Michigan. Cause until they, about to tell you gotta lay new pipe. They gonna get new pipe before Flint, Michigan get new pipe. But, it's tough. It's not tough, but it's tough. We could declare Flint, Michigan as, an emergency situation. We send it in the military, just like we did with COVID. Everybody stay home. Everybody working from home. Everybody stay home. We'll give you all XYZ to live off for the year, for a time. And the military could easily, they shut down the city, rip up the street, pull out the pipe, and replace new pipe in less than 6 months. Because we got enough hands on deck to get the project done at once. Not part of the city here, part of the city there. Fuck that. Shut down the whole city. Everybody stay in your fucking house. Because we about to rip up the street. Only streets that are open are streets that they're using for like supplies and so people could get food into the city. So they could get food into the city and people could order toilet paper and shit. Here's enough money. Stay in the house. Everybody, I better buy a game system or something. Well, make sure you got enough food. Because that's the first thing. How do we get food and how do we get toilet paper? Shit, if you're going to give me a year off and you're going to give me some money, I'm cool with that. I could order some shit off Amazon. Amazon trucks going to be able to get in. It might take a little longer, but yeah. Oh, shit, fine. Y'all dig this shit up? Can I eat? Can I shit? And can I get shit? Because I ain't got shit else to do while I'm in the house with these kids. Or this woman. Am I at least allowed to sit on my porch? Sure. You could order alcohol on Amazon. You could technically order weed. I don't know if Michigan is a weed-friendly state. You can get a dispensary send you some shit. Like, I survived the Flint, Michigan crisis with your friendly neighborhood dispensary. Start doing advertisements and sponsorships for the shit. Here's some money. Get your food together. Get your toilet paper. Order your toilet paper online. Get the kids a game system or two. They could go to school online. Like, COVID shows that we could survive in a time of crisis like that, for a brief period of time. But for the military to come in with all the equipment rip up all the streets at once. You know, you get new streets at the end, rip up all the pipes, or clean them. You know, because you can recycle the old ones if you clean them properly, depending on how bad they are. And lay new pipes to rip up the street, pull out, you know, place, and repay. It's only a big job when you can't shut down the city. You can't quarantine the work area. But when you can quarantine the work area and nobody stepping on your floor, stepping in the work area, it's a lot easier to get done. It really is. We showed it in COVID. Like, I don't know if anybody else noticed, but here in Chicago, I noticed the streets are a lot better since everybody had to sit in the fucking house. They took that time to refix the streets and they fixed up a lot of shit. Low key that people ain't noticed. You know? Essential workers are again, like I was an essential worker. I was working in the healthcare field, you know, helping the elderly that couldn't do shit. So I was moving around. But, you know, hospitals, emergency services, construction. Because they going to need construction people for this shit to work alongside with them. All the private contractors that can make some money. You know, you got equipment, come on. You got the hand, you're able to work and you want to, come on. You get the stipend for your family to stay home. And you can make extra money on top by helping out. But what do I know? I'm just a guy that likes the game. I like money too. I'm a problem solver also. And I used to want to be the president. But hey, fuck do I know? Anyway, GG, good game, Gab Games, GabGames.com. Talk about it.